And we're here today to discuss, have a workshop or a workshop in a box called Interviewing with Confidence. And Kristen is going to give us a little bit of instructions on how these workshops in a box actually work. Colleen Connell will be the instructor for this particular session today. It's obviously a very intimate group. We do appreciate if it is as interactive as possible, because that's where we'll get the most out of it by participation. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kristen, who can give us some of the instructions on what a workshop in a box is really all about and how to utilize it in your library.
Thank you, Sarah. So I want to welcome everybody to the Interviewing with Confidence workshop in a box. Thank you for attending the program over Zoom. I do want everybody to keep in mind that workshops in a box, they're not videos that you're just going to turn on and show to your students. They're workshops for you to interactively facilitate in your library. All of the workshops in a box are set up so that once you've seen how we run the workshop, excuse me, you will be able to use all of the same tools we used while running the workshop, the PowerPoint, the handouts, any exercises, and you'll be able to teach that workshop in your library. So the way that today works is Colleen is going to run this workshop for you. You are all Colleen's students who are here to learn about how to interview with confidence. So during the recording, while Colleen is running the workshop, we would love for any questions, comments, etc. But think about if you are attending this workshop as a student who is here to learn how to interview with confidence. I do know that you'll also have questions about how to teach this workshop in your library. I'm just going to ask that you hold on to those questions to the end. So we will have time to debrief at the end of this session. But for now, you are here as a student. Now, regardless of whether you're here on Zoom right now or you're watching this as a recording, all of the materials used in today's session, you can find them on Canvas. It takes a day or two to get the video and all of the materials ready, but within the next day or two on Canvas, you'll be able to find the workshop in a box for interviewing with confidence. It includes a set of instructions for how to use all of the materials. The presentation slides will be available there for you to download. Those slides contain notes that are for you to use as you're the facilitator. You'll find those in the notes section. So pretty much what Colleen is saying, you will be able to read in the notes section. And then any handouts that we are using in today's session, those will be in Canvas as well. I also want you to know that although we're running this workshop as a Zoom session so that we can record it for other libraries to view and utilize, we do expect that most libraries are going to be working with their patrons in person. So, and keep in mind, workshops are such a great way just to drive traffic into your library. The resources you use, the questions, the pacing, everything that you're going to see today works the same whether you're teaching in person or remotely. So before we start the workshop, does that all make sense? Like, are there questions about how do you behave as a student, or what are you supposed to be doing during the Zoom recording?
No, I don't have any questions.
Awesome. Well, then we're ready to get started. So remember, just jot down any sort of instructional questions for the end of today's session and go ahead and enjoy just being a student, learning how to interview with confidence. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, Colleen.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen. I hope that everyone can see my screen. It should be, interviewing with confidence in a workshop in a box screen. Yes. Great. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. So welcome to our Interviewing with Confidence workshop in a box. My name is Colleen Connell, and I'm excited to lead this workshop today. The session is designed to help you to prepare for an interview and how to conduct yourself professionally during any interview situation. All of you should have received the materials and handouts. Sarah sent them in your email. We will be referring to those handouts later in this session. Today, you will learn the basics of a good interview, including etiquette, what to expect, and how to prepare for an interview. You will learn the importance of a pre-interview research, explore a variety of interview styles, and gain practice answering the most common interview questions and more. So when you're applying, you may think that recruiters are only evaluating your educational, oops, wait a second. Oh, sorry, I just got move this out of the way. Okay. When you're applying for a job, you may think that recruiters are only evaluating your education background, work experience, and skills. Keep in mind that even though you have the right skill set and knowledge that companies are looking for, your recruiters and hiring managers may ignore your application based on inappropriate behavior during the interview. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is, let's give an example of, have you ever made a mistake during an interview? Tell us an experience that you had during an interview. Maybe something, you could talk about something good that happened during the interview, or maybe something bad that happened during the interview that stands out. So I'll go first. Something bad that happened to me for an interview was I had too much coffee. I drank a lot of coffee. I was going up to the building and I was finishing my cup of coffee before the interview. And when I got in the interview, I felt very jittery. I was a little more nervous and I talked a bit too much on a topic that was about a position. So coffee is not a good thing for me when I go on interviews. I switch to either hot tea or just water before my interview. A great experience I had with the interview is I did my research ahead of time and I felt very prepared because I was able to ask really good questions to the employer or the interviewer about the company. So I felt really good about that I had prepared myself. So Kristen, do you want to give an example of yours experience, either a bad or a good?
Yeah. So my bad interview experience was calling the interviewer by the wrong name the whole time through, and I'm trying to be so personable, and
I've got an
use-
alarm going here, guys, so I'm going to have to leave for a few minutes.
Gotcha. I was trying to be so personable and use people's names and the wrong name the whole time, and they didn't correct me. It was really awful, very embarrassing. My good things. Trying to think of something good. I think, honestly, I hope, I mean, I guess I did do a good job. I was going to say, one of the things that I did when I was interviewing at the library was I went on to the website and I looked at everything and things I had never heard of. I mean, very specifically in the digital literacy department, but things I had never heard of. I Googled and I jotted down all kinds of notes, and I was hired during the pandemic. So I was able to interview on Zoom and I could have the notes like pasted up around my computer. So that was super helpful. But regardless, like I have interviewed and kept notes. But I think this was the first time I interviewed where the internet was like really a thing, which sounds so awful. But, you know, my last job interview before Plainfield was, I don't know, like 24 years ago. So.
Great. Well, thanks for that input. Darlene, can you add to that? Would you like to give us an example of something good or bad that in the past with interviews?
Well, during one of my interviews, I was so nervous that my words didn't come out right. And I just was, you know, stuttering a lot and everything because I was overly nervous about thinking about the interview. in one instance where I knew I had the job because the supervisor I was in an interview for 2 hours. So I knew I had the job, and I was really happy about that. But just to let you know, it was for the library here. I was in an interview for like 2 hours. So that was a good experience for me because when I left, I knew I had it.
Great. Yeah, well, that's everybody's nervous during an interview. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that information. I'm
Yeah.
glad you got the job. Yay.
Oh, thanks.
Um, just, I mean, a couple examples of bad things like we've experienced. I know Kristen and myself, we've done many interviews even for our library, and we've had people come in wearing a hat, wearing sweatpants to the interview, wrinkled clothing, arriving late, their cell phones go off during the interview. So there's a lot of bad things. Good
Yeah.
things, again, like I had mentioned, asking questions related to the company. It shows interest by repeating something maybe they're saying during the interview that you repeat also by asking a question about. Also having being prepared with a pen, a paper, a notebook, it shows that you are ready, you're prepared, and you might be jotting down even information as the interview goes on. So great, thanks for participating in that. So let's talk about our objectives today and what we're going to learn. By the end of the workshop, you're going to be able to prepare for the interview, show interest by asking questions. You're going to know how to dress appropriately for your interview and be your best at an interview. So you might ask yourself, how am I going to do this? You're going to do research on the company. You're going to review possible questions the interviewer may ask you ahead of time, so you're prepared. You're going to know all the responsibilities for the job you're applying for by preparing ahead of time. Today, we're going to see a variety of interview styles and techniques and discover how to feel comfortable in any interview setting. We will learn how research can help you arrive at the interview feeling confident and prepared. You'll have the opportunity to practice answering some of the most common interview questions and consider what questions you want to ask at your interview. You will learn how to bring and wear what to wear and what to bring to an interview. And we're going to discuss mistakes and how to avoid them. Lastly, you will be ready to take part in mock interviews. So let's get started. So once you have secured an interview, it's your responsibility to impress the interviewer. You've done an excellent job creating a well-written cover letter and resume. The next step in the search process is acing the first interview and any future interviews. The job search process can be a time-consuming one. It becomes your responsibility to impress the person who invites you for the job interview. Only after a successful interview might you receive the job offer. So there's 3 questions on the mind of that person interviewing you. So want to take a look at the slide we have up right now. Will this person be successful in the job if they're hired? Will this person be an asset to the company? And is this person worth the salary the company would be willing to pay them? Everything you do during an interview will help you answer these questions in a positive way. So the experience and skills you display on paper have gotten the company interested in the possibility of hiring you. Now the employer wants to meet you in person, get to know you better, and learn more about your qualifications. The interview is your big chance to impress the interviewer with everything you have to offer. It's your opportunity to set yourself apart from other applicants. Demonstrate that you are qualified to fill the available job opening and show how excited you are about the prospect of working for that employer. This slide stresses the importance of a good first impression, as everything about you will be evaluated. So again, selling yourself, and showing them your appearance, very important, what you look like when you walk in that interview. Your attitude, a positive attitude, a big smile on your face. Your body language says a lot about you as you're in the interview and coming to the interview. And your personality. You want your personality to shine when you're at that interview. Communication skills, so important. You have to communicate. You don't want to just be at the interview. You want to work with the interview. You want to talk. You want to communicate. Okay. And it will show your level of preparation needs to show when you're at that interview. Okay. So most interviews have 5 stages. 5 stages: introduction, small talk, exchanging information, summarizing, and the closing. So let's discuss each stage a little bit more. Stage 1, the introductions. No matter who you are meeting with, whether it's someone from human resources or the person who might eventually be your boss, remember to shake hands, smile, make direct eye contact, and introduce yourself. Don't forget to refer to them formally. Mr., Mrs., whatever it might be. Don't just call them by their first name. It's a formal interview. Do you think you should chew gum, bring coffee into the interview, or even smoke before an interview? And why? So, Darlene, I'll just give that question to you. Do you think you should chew gum, bring coffee, or smoke before an interview? And why not?
No, because I mean, you don't want their employer to be smelling cigarettes or anything like that. It's unprofessional to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. Great, thank you.
Colleen, you know what I do? I actually make sure I have breath mints.
Oh,
Like
great idea.
and have it in early enough before the interview
Mhm.
that I'm not still, sucking on it, but but that way hopefully you
Yeah.
can't tell that I had 7,000 cups of coffee before the interview.
Right.
And we know from my bad experience that we don't want to drink coffee. I don't want to drink coffee prior to an interview.
No.
So, and just be, if you go into the interview and they offer you something to drink, ask, say, yeah, I'd love a thing of water. I'll take
Okay.
water. Okay. Something
Okay.
like that. But
Sounds
again, even Darlene, with the smoking thing, so many people that I've interviewed, even though that smoke just lingers in the room. So we always tell people, don't even have a cigarette at all if you smoke, because it will linger on your clothing. Even if you have a mint, it's going to linger on your clothing.
Exactly, it does. It does.
Yeah. So great. So stage 2, small talk. Casual conversation at the beginning of an interview puts everyone at ease. It makes it transition to the next stage that's a little more natural and pleasant. Quick comments about the beautiful weather, or ease about your commute to the interview, or a positive observation about the office building, are possible icebreakers. So even if the interviewer takes a casual approach to the interview, you're still being evaluated. So never lose focus. Pay attention to the conversation, keep smiling, and maintain your eye contact and answer all the questions openly and honestly, and use complete sentences. We don't want to just say yes, no, yes, no. So you should never answer questions with one-word answers. So if the interviewer may ask you something like, oh, was it easy to find our building? Say, oh, yes, my GPS gave me a perfect set of directions. Or yes, the directions were very easy to follow to the parking lot. Right. Exchanging information, stage 3. During an interview, you will be expected to answer questions about your background and experience. This is when you will discuss what's on your resume by relating stories about how you have put your skills to use. Equally important is asking 3 to 5 well thought out questions about the company and the position. Here, it's very important that you don't lie. Don't exaggerate about the job experiences or your academic records. Your interviewer is going to check those things out. Answer every question asked. You want to highlight your experience in the interview, but you should be careful to answer every question being asked. Don't be so intent on launching into a personal story or experience to completely avoid the question. Your interviewer will notice that. And then don't reveal too much. Your interviewer wants to learn about the skills and qualities you bring to a job. He or she doesn't want to hear about your personal life or problems. Stage 4, summarizing. In every interview, there's a natural point at which there's no more questions to ask. This is your time to summarize what you heard about the responsibilities of the position. Be sure to say that you're interested in the job for which you're applying for. Explain exactly why you want the job and what you can offer to the company and why you are the best candidate to fill that position. Clarify any information that was unclear. During that interview, you were taking notes on your notepad. You may have to refer back to those and say, I'd like to clarify you talked earlier about the responsibilities in the position being this. Can we clarify that, or can you give me more details? That's a great question to ask when you're at the closing or at the end and you're summarizing. So stage 5, the closing. Leave on a positive note. Make a final statement about the interest in the job, interest you have in the job and the company. Find out what happens next. When will you hear about the second interview or the hiring decision? Before leaving, make sure your interviewer has a copy of your resume and ask for his or her card. You have a business card, because that's your opportunity to have the information so you can follow up with them after the interview. Thank your interviewer, smile, shake hands to close it. Okay. So, do we have any questions about that? I'm going to go back to that slide real quick, Darlene. And if you have any questions about any of those stages of the interview process.
No, you explained them very well.
I have a quick question.
Great. Kristen.
So if I am at an interview, I've heard before, like, only answer what's asked or only talk about what's asked. So I'm wondering, like, should I really start with small talk, or only if the interviewer starts with small talk? Like, I'm curious what your thought is on that.
I think I would kind of follow and listen to what the interviewers, what they're feeling. Like, you got to kind of listen to them and let them guide you. If they seem to be very direct and very structured on their conversation, how they're guiding it, then no, I would not get into some small talk.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, great question. So, scheduling an interview. Hopefully shortly after you send your resume and your cover letter, the potential employer, your telephone rings, ring, ring, ring. We'd like to set up an interview. So let's look at each of these rules. First thing is, be easy to schedule. You don't want to get on the phone and they say, we want to set up an interview, and go, oh my God, my schedule's so busy. I just can't find time. I know I really want to interview, but no. Be ready at any time. When you send resumes out, be ready for that phone to ring and be flexible. The interviewer or her assistant, it's going to likely start off the scheduling chat with a date. Try to be flexible. If she says next Thursday at 3 p.m., and that's when your weekly staff meeting is, you're booked and that's your staff meeting. Don't be nervous about saying, oh, I'm sorry, can we pick a better time? Let them know. Reply with a better time for you, such as next Thursday at lunchtime would be better for me. Likewise, if it's 9 a.m. is the best time for you, go ahead and say it. But if that time slot doesn't work for the interviewer, offer another one, such as your lunch hour or 5 p.m. It's okay to do that. Keep your scheduling details organized. A person can get so excited because they got that phone call and get nervous about that they got called for the interview and they misunderstand the details. First, pause and collect yourself, then thank the person for calling and ask for a moment to grab a pen and paper so you can write that information in your planner. Remember your manners. You never know, who will have a say in the hiring decision. So why risk your future by using bad manners? Often when a potential employer or human resources representative calls you to talk about setting up the interview, he or she is getting a sense of your personality on the phone. So remember, everything you're saying on that phone is part of the interview process too. It starts immediately when they contact you. Schedule your interview with plenty of time to prepare. Always avoid scheduling an interview for the same day that you're called to schedule. Allow yourself at least one day so you can prepare and do your proper research. Okay. So, a question for everyone. What information do you think you'll need to get from that potential employer during that call? What information do you have to get from them? Can someone give me some examples? What are you looking for?
Definitely an address.
Definitely an address. Where am I supposed to go?
Maybe even where to park, just so that you're not late.
Perfect. Darlene?
Good question. Of course, find out who you're going to be interviewing with.
Exactly. The name of the person. Yeah. Because probably the person calling you isn't the one you're interviewing with. They're going to
Right.
say, come in for the interview. You want to know who you're going to speak to.
Correct.
Okay. So just some other things. Those are great answers. Yep. Person you're at the exact position you're interviewing for, the location of the interview with the directions, the name of the person, any materials. They might ask you to bring your portfolio or bring samples. If you're interviewing for a job that you're a creative person and you create graphics, they're going to ask you to bring those samples with you. So be prepared to bring information too. Also, always bring copies of your resume to the interview. Okay. So at the end of that phone call, that conversation, right? The end of that phone call, always make sure you confirm the date, the time, the place, and the materials to bring, and always say thank you. Okay. So here we have an example of a phone conversation that someone called up and they said, ring, ring, ring. Sounds like this. Hi, this is Colleen calling from the Plainfield Library. We saw your resume. We think you'd be a great candidate. We'd like to set up an interview. And then Joe's on the other line going, yeah, I can come in sometime next week, I guess. Who? Oh, right. Oh, the marketing job. Oh, is that the position? I'm not sure what my day looks like. Tuesday? Well, where's my iPhone? Let me call you back. So wrong. I think we can all see that is. Another wrong example is, okay, see you then. Thanks. Bye. I hope to see you then. Ciao. Those are very wrong answers. Okay. Correct answers. Thank you for calling, Mr. Peterson. I'm very interested in meeting with you and discussing the open position in the marketing department. Another great answer. See you next Thursday, November 14th at 12:30. Sounds perfect. I will see you at the Milford Corporate Park in the Human Resources reception area. I will bring my portfolio. Thanks again. Goodbye. So you can recap, where you're going to meet, what time you're going to meet, but everything should be very professional. Okay. And again, I can't stress that you have to keep in mind that scheduling phone call is often a part of the screening process. If your attitude on the phone is rude, shy, or negative in any way, it will probably be noted. Likewise, your positive qualities will also be noted, so always be professional. So common types of interviews. There's several ways that an interview may be conducted: a one-on-one interview, human resources, a group interview, or a panel interview. One-on-one is probably the most common type of interview. It involves two people, you and the interviewer. Most likely you'll be sitting opposite each other in an office or a conference room and participating in a two-way conversation. However, these interviews can sometimes happen off-site, such as over a meal. Maybe someone would want to meet at a restaurant or over coffee, or on the telephone, which is that screening interview, setting it up, or a Zoom session. A lot of interviews take place by Zoom now too. Human resource screening, that's usually that first phone call. Often a representative from the human resources department will interview you before you meet the hiring manager. The screening interview ensures that you're the right fit for the job or the right person to interview for the job. Inappropriate candidates are screened out immediately, and that happens during that first phone call discussion, okay? This first step always saves the hiring manager's time. So why interview someone, bring them in, if you know right off the bat that the phone interview did not go well? Group interview. This may seem unusual, but it can be common, especially in big companies or they're doing campus recruiting at colleges. You may be asked to participate with other candidates all around you. So it's your turn to respond to questions and your opportunity to stand out from other applicants. You have to describe your attributes clearly, concisely, and display your enthusiasm for the job and the company. In this situation, though, you have less time to win over the interviewer, but at the same time, you can size up the competition so you can see what everyone else is saying too. Never be rude and never interrupt other fellow applicants. And panel interviews. We do that at the library. Whenever we interview, we have a panel. We usually have 2 to 3 people that interview. During the panel interview, you meet with several people from the company at the same time. The type of interview simulates either a like a business meeting at which you're the presenter. So members of the panel may be individuals who you would interact with on the job, or they may be designated by the company as the hiring committee. The panel may include your potential supervisor or manager. So you need to impress 2, 3, or more people at once. And it's vital that you maintain eye contact and develop a rapport with each of them. Don't allow yourself to become intimidated in this situation. Providing thorough answers to each question ensures that you've given respectful answers and thoughtful answers to each member. And remember to be flexible and demonstrate that you can think on your feet. If you go into an interview having done your research and you are totally prepared, it will not matter if 1 person or 5 people are conducting the interview. So, Darlene,
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about your 2-hour interview and what type of interview was that? I don't know where you are in your library, or you can use a different experience, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, what type of interview you've had.
I had an interview with both supervisors, the director and the director's assistant, and we were down in the staff room, and the director was telling me like everything about the library, everything that went on, how much, like other things. And I kind of figured I had it because he was just telling me things that I would be told when I actually got hired. So by me saying that, it's just that it was just a long interview, and he barely asked me any questions. He just told me everything about everything. So that was my experience for 2 hours.
Now, did they, did they interview you on the phone prior, you think?
No, actually, they called me and asked me if I could come in. Well, they called me around 3 o'clock and asked me to come in by 5. So I came in and
Same day. Wow.
yeah, I had just gotten off of work, and they asked me to come in by 5. I came in by 5 and had the interview.
That's
Till
wonderful.
7 o'clock?
Excuse me, yeah. Because
Wow.
the library closes at 8 here. So yeah. I had a long interview. A lot of information was told to me.
Wow. Well, I think that's a little bit unique experience for someone, but your resume must have been written very well. You stood out, probably you excelled. I mean, from them just reading your resume. And then you were actually like, it was almost like you were onboarded, like you were,
Yes,
you were,
it's
you were
considered that way.
yes. So they knew by you walking in, presenting yourself professionally and meeting you that they were like, you sold them. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad I sold them because I've been here for 8 years. So
Oh, wow. Well, that's wonderful. 8 years. Great.
thank you. And also, as far as like what you wear and everything, you're absolutely right, because I went on an interview one time. Actually, they didn't call me or anything. I just heard that they were hiring, this company was hiring. And I went there and I was dressed for an interview, even though I didn't know if I was going to get one or not.
Mm.
And went in there and I got the job, but I noticed that on my file, once I had the job, she wrote down exactly what I was wearing.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she wrote down exactly what I was wearing because I walked in and they interviewed me right there on the spot, and I ended up getting the job.
That's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up because we're going to, a little later in the presentation, we're going to talk about what to wear and what not to wear. And you're absolutely right. Whenever you're called or you're just stopping by thinking, I'll drop off my resume,
Mhm.
you're always prepared to be interviewed at the,
Yes.
always prepared. That's great. Oh my gosh. And they jotted it down too. See,
Yeah, wrote
everything
exactly.
about you, everything
Yep.
about you is being assessed.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So I'll talk a little bit about a second interview because, obviously sometimes you have second interviews, they're looking at several candidates and they want to bring you back for a second interview. So sometimes the interview process is long, as Darlene has attested to, that it can be spread out though over days also. So don't be surprised if you're introduced to other employees during and after second or third interviews. Whatever style or format your second or third interviews are, you always be prepared. Don't get lazy and don't think of additional interviews as just a formality. Never assume that someone's asking you the same questions and you say, I answered that question like 3 times already. You may have to keep repeating yourself over and over again on multiple interviews. Don't get lazy and never think of additional interviews as just a formality. As the interview process goes on, the importance of each interview increases. So always do your best every time. If you're invited back for that second interview, expect the interviewer to ask more detailed questions also that could be related to the job that you're applying for. So they may be asking specific details again afterwards. So always be ready. Okay. So after the interview, send a thank you note. Follow up. After the interview, depending on the next steps discussed at the close of the interview, you need to follow up. Generally, the guideline is to send an email or a personal note within 24 hours of the interview. That's why you always ask for a business card or their information as you're leaving and thanking them. Follow up 3 to 5 business days, either by phone, email, a written note. Send a short personal thank you after the interview is an absolute must. Your note, make it specific, referencing, something you discussed during the interview, something you want to refresh the interviewer's mind about who you are, something that you want to stand out, and explain how excited you are about the possibility of working for the company. Thanking them and doing things like this afterwards, it sets yourself apart from other candidates. You can send it through email, you can send it through a note, but never ever text a person a thank you for their interview or thank you. You need to either do it by telephone, email, whatever it might be, to send that message. I know that we don't send formal snail mail, as I call it, the mailing information, but always try to follow up after the interview and thank them in one way or another. So
The
Yep.
person who taught me that that was a really important part of the interview, and again, long time ago, used to have thank you cards that she carried with her and would write out the thank you note before she even got home from the interview and make sure to drop it in the mail. So it's not the same like as a typed professional letter, but again, it kind of makes you stand out if you send a thank you card that you've handwritten with something personal in it. So I sort of like that idea.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I know that, we don't get a lot of thank yous for our interviews in the library.
I was trying to remember if I thanked you or not, but then I was also trying to remember whether I was offered the job right away. Like
we hired you right away, right on the
Oh.
spot. Kind of like Darlene. We were like partially onboarding at the same time. No, but
not quite.
we did offer Kristen the job right on the spot. So, but yeah, I like the idea of that little personal thank you note. I think there was a funny thank you note that someone many years ago, like a long time ago, someone did a thank you note and they put it in the note, they put a dollar bill. And I don't know if you guys remember that story or not. I don't remember the details of it, but that person got hired immediately because everybody was just like showing this dollar bill, like they were showing the, the time or whatever it was, the relationship of the dollar bill, but they were stunned that that person did that. They were like, oh my God, and they hired them. No, not them send money to anybody, but that little personal note might make a difference too. So now you're familiar with what you can expect when you start the interviewing process for the job that you want. But knowing what an interview is like and actually being prepared for it are two different things. So let's talk about preparing for the interview. Okay. So practice before each interview. Choose the right thing to wear to the interview and what to bring. You want to be well prepared, and that means you need to practice ahead of time. Choose appropriate clothing, okay? And bring the necessary documents. So let's talk about those. Practice. After doing your research, you have a good idea of what might be discussed during your interview. It's an excellent idea to prepare for your interviews by participating in practice interviews. We call those mock interviews. And we do them at the library too, when we do our training classes and such, and we do them in our lab time with patrons. And it gives them an opportunity to practice what the interview, they're going to ask questions, what they're going to say. You could practice though with a friend or a relative. In your practice interview, you're going to watch for these typical interview mistakes though. Being stale. If you've been on many interviews over and over, you start to sound bored. By mixing your standard responses with facts about the company or the industry and current events, you can freshen your delivery. So always prepare prior to the job and look up that company. You might see something in the New York Times, like an article that says, oh, I see in the New York Times, it mentions your company increased their profits by 10% in 2022. Something current that will freshen it up. So research and practice. Being ordinary, you want to set yourself apart from the competition by letting your personality shine through in every conversation and by remembering to tailor your responses to the company with which you are meeting. Remember, put a smile on your face. When I'm on Zoom, I try to remind myself with a little sticker up here, I have that says smile, and I have a little smiley face. So that helps me remember to smile as I'm in my presentation or I'm talking to the camera. What would set yourself apart from others? That's what you always have to think about too. What's going to set you apart? Being arrogant. Even if you're the perfect candidate, you can slip up in any interview by coming across as snarky, insincere, or even arrogant. Don't try to outsmart or talk over your interviewer. I think many of us have been on interviewers where we might think that, boy, I'm not sure what this person is asking me. Or maybe, they're not the right person. I'm smarter than them. Well, that's not the goal here. The goal here is for you to impress them by what you know and what you can do for them. Be a good listener. Try to repeat something that they said and work that into your conversation. And then being nervous. Everyone knows we're all a little nervous during interviews, especially when the future of your career is at stake. However, don't let your nerves get the best of you. Take a pause. Take a breath. There's nothing wrong with pausing, taking a breath, taking a moment, get your thought, and then always bring a notepad. You can always start writing down things. And as you're writing it down, you could say, oh, can you give me a moment? I'd like to write that down. That's a great point. I just want to, and write it down. It gives you a pause moment when you have that notepad and the pen and you're writing. Okay. So again, you can always start writing down things to help calm your nerves, and it gives you a pause. Okay. Can someone give me an example? Well, Darlene, I'm going to call on you. Of what you might have done to prepare for an interview.
What I've done. A lot of times I would kind of find out about the company that I'm going to interview for. I try to calm my nerves because that's a big thing, I can't.
Did you ever practice do a mock interview at all?
No, I've
Okay.
never done that.
I have.
But I should have a couple of times. I should have done that.
Good. Yeah, we do. We like to stress that a lot. And even though mock interviews aren't part of today's workshop in a box, it's kind of at the end of this that's getting ready and preparing everyone for that next step of doing a mock interview.
Okay.
So, thanks for sharing that, Kristen.
So a lot of people got laid off during the pandemic. And a group of friends and I from my last job formed this little job hunting support group. And we would talk about how many resumes we sent, all the different things we were doing for job hunting. And when each of us got an interview, the rest of the group would go online and learn about the company, look up different kinds of questions to ask, and then we would interview each other and give feedback. I mean, it was more nerve-wracking to talk to my friends about myself than it was in the job interview. So it really sort of made it so much easier to do that. And I'm seeing also that Daphne practices in a mirror.
Yeah, I just saw. I didn't realize Daphne was with us. So hi, Daphne.
Back. She can hear us. Yep.
She can hear us. Okay, great.
I have practiced things and recorded over Zoom because anybody can get a free Zoom account.
Mhm.
So I've practiced and recorded myself so I can see and hear and go back and think, oh, that was a great answer. Let me write it down. Or, oh, I wouldn't have said it that way. Oh,
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. I love doing that too. The Zoom, I practice, even this presentation, I bring it up alone in Zoom and I do the whole presentation. I watch myself on the camera and I practice ahead of time. And I love the mirror idea too, because you can really see yourself. You can watch your body language. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Well, I've done several video interviews, I guess you call them, where you record yourself and then you submit it into the company. So
Oh.
they give you a list of questions and you have to answer them and record yourself, and you can re-record it if you don't like the way you look or sound, and then you submit it. I did maybe 2 or 3 of those, and that was really helpful too, because like the Zoom thing, you get to see how you are portraying yourself and how you're speaking. And, sometimes, like Kristen said, I like that answer I gave. And sometimes it's like, I could do better. So it always is helpful to just review and take a look at yourself.
That's great. Wow, those are good things. A couple things I just learned there too myself. I never did.
Don't go out there interviewing, Colleen. We need you.
I'm not going anywhere. Well, thanks everyone for sharing with that too. I'm glad Daphne's with us. I didn't realize that she was able to hear us. Okay, so let's go on to the next. Let's talk about clothing. What are we going to wear? So what is appropriate interview clothing? Okay, so for men, you can never go wrong with a suit. It's conservative. You can we usually wear dark shades of a navy blue, gray, or brown. In a non-corporate environment, an acceptable alternative for a suit, less formal, is sports jacket, blazer, dress slacks. Okay. So I'm not going to necessarily talk, since we don't have any men attending today, I'm going to kind of skip over like what would be appropriate to wear for men, because I usually would ask, give me some examples of what a men would wear for an interview. But let's go right to the women, since we have women with us today. Okay. So what you think would be appropriate clothing for women to wear? Okay. Examples. Daphne, you can put yours in chat. Think about some things that you might wear to an interview. What would you wear? We're looking for examples, like women can be a little more creative with their wardrobe, right? Men, it's kind of easy. Slacks, jacket, suit or not suit, tie, no tie. Men have it kind of like easier in that sense. Women, we have so many varieties of what we can wear and what we can select. So it's very important to look at, what fits with the company's dress code. So understanding your company that you're interviewing for is very important too.
Daphne put into chat, pantsuit, usually blue. I wore a skirt suit, which, yep, perfect. I was given the advice that you should try to find out the dress code of where you're interviewing and go like one step up. So for example, if the last company I worked at was a fashion retailer, we were allowed to wear jeans. You would wear jeans and a nice top and a nice blazer jacket, whatever. So at that company, I definitely went more for a pantsuit, knowing, I wanted to look just a little bit above the job. I mean, I don't know if that's really good advice or not, but.
That's great. That's great.
So like, I guess if you were interviewing maybe for somewhere like Target, where I think it's khakis and a red shirt. So maybe you could still wear khakis or, but a nicer top, I'm guessing.
Right, exactly. So you just need to know the company's something about their dress code prior and think it out. And like Kristen said, a little notch above, just go up a little bit above. Okay. So if I think about for women's clothing, okay, it's no longer that you have to wear a business suit necessarily, but you can look equally professional in a nice dress, nice tailored dress, skirt, dress slacks. You can also look at the heels you're wearing, low heeled dress shoes, natural looking makeup, simple and understated jewelry that complements your outfit without attracting attention, right? Your nails, polished, neutral color. Think of how everything is being looked at when you're like that, when you're getting ready to get dressed. For men, I'm just going to point out that some examples of like a white pressed shirt, long sleeve shirt. Maybe you have to wear a tie. Make sure the tie coordinates with your suit. Avoid wild colors and patterns. Dark socks. What you don't want is to sit down in the interview and have your Christmas socks showing when you're at the table. So I always tell men, sit down and look at yourself and look at your ankles, because you want to make sure you have the right matching socks on, and you don't want bright socks to be standing out when you sit down in that interview, because we know the pants, they shift up a little bit. And obviously same with women, but make sure that your shoes and your ankles, you look at them when you sit down, because usually you're sitting when you come in for an interview. Okay. Let's see. Avoiding things like for men, fragrance of any type. Scents can cause allergic reactions to people in the room. So consider, your interviewer. Again, jewelry other than a watch, a wedding band, you don't want overly religious or political symbols. No baseball caps or hats. We have had an interview where someone came in with a hat on and we couldn't focus. We were just like staring at this hat. Like, why does he have a hat on?
But like, is religious head covering okay?
Absolutely. Religious, yes, absolutely. Our person that was in our interview, and I think all three of us, Sarah, Kristen, and myself, were all in that interview where that person wore the hat. So, and that was a male, so it just was not.
That wasn't a religious hat, though.
No, not a religious hat at all. And he had the biggest jug of water I've ever seen. He had this like 2-gallon thing, it looked like. Remember that? That's so strange. Obviously we didn't hire him. So for women, again, bad examples would be like low cut necklines, sleeveless tops, it just kind of, I would always put a sweater on. If I had a sleeveless top, I'd wear a sweater, cover my shoulders and that. Sheer fabrics, you can see through sheer fabrics. So you watch the fabrics, the clothing material. No mini skirts, no loud prints, spiked heels, like the big 3-inch heels. No dramatic makeup, fragrance. If you're wearing perfume, very, very slight, but again, this whole fragrance thing can set people off with allergies in interviews. And just, again, excessive flashy jewelry, you don't want any of that. And again, the overly religious or political symbols of any kind. So just taking a look at some men's business formal on the screen, the slide I have up here now. Wear a suit, dark colors. Dress shirts are best. Wear a tie if you're wearing a suit. Polish your shoes and free of scratches and stains. Believe it or not, people do look at your shoes. So you want to make sure if you're, the shoes are not all scuffed up. So check your socks before sitting down and looking in the mirror. Sit down and look at the socks. Avoid wearing strong cologne. Bring a briefcase or some type of bag, because you're going to be bringing your resumes and maybe some other items to the interview. And cover tattoos. Tattoos are fine, obviously, but in an interview, you don't want the attention of the interviewer staring at your tattoo, and then your tattoo becomes a topic of conversation. Okay. Women, regardless of the type of job you're interviewing for, there's some things you should never wear to a job interview. You want to get noticed in a good way and not stand out from other applicants because of what you're wearing or not wearing. So low cut tops, excessive perfume, bright flashy colors, overly casual clothes, dated fashions. If they're 20 years old, they're 20 years old. Although some things do come back, right? So just think about like what you're wearing. Again, heavy perfume, cologne, that could just set anybody off. Wacky novelty ties, things like that, eliminate them. Don't even wear them. Excessive accessories, and believe it or not, headphones. Some people forget to take out like their earbuds and things like that. Remove the earbuds. You don't need them in the ears. So think about that. All right. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise, and I'm going to show you some pictures, and I want you to call out yes or no and tell me why. It can be I'm sure it'll be very quick, the yeses and the nos, but as we go through some of these pictures, I got some pictures I'm going to show you, and I just want to hear a yes or no and tell me why. And we'll keep an eye on chat there, we have a Doris that joined us. Or
That's Doris. Doris is a volunteer at
West Orange.
West Orange, right? I think I'm right. Yes.
Great. Okay, so we have another person. So we know Daphne's on chat. So
Doris
Daphne
is
and
as well
Doris-
right now. I'll
Great.
keep an eye on it.
Okay, so you guys can put your answers in chat. I'm going to show some pictures. So, and Darlene, you can just call it out because you're able to be on audio. So, first picture, yes or no to the dress? And I say dress as like to the attire, but I'm going to use the word dress. Yes or no to the dress?
No.
2 no's are in chat.
Who knows? Yep.
And I heard Darlene say no also.
Okay. Now, I'm kind of questionable with this because if this person's going in for a interview at Target, as Kristen was mentioning before, this is like a nice casual attire for a Target interview.
I'm not
But-
sure I'd wear the sneakers though.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
That's it. Exactly. So it's kind of a yes and a no.
Yeah,
Never-
Daphne says it's too
never-
casual.
This
Yeah.
is too casual.
I agree, Daphne.
There you
If
go.
the shirt was tucked in and it wasn't sneakers.
And
I'm
those are not
assuming
jeans?
Those aren't jeans,
Yeah.
then yeah, like
Right.
a Target, definitely.
Yeah.
but-
like a- right. Exactly. But the sneakers, no. And remember, we have untucked shirts now for men. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that interview, the marketing for that. But the
Yes.
untuck, yeah. So, but yes, so that's, yeah, good. Okay, so next. What about this lovely lady?
Oh, boy.
No.
What is she showing a little
Oh,
bit too much of?
We got a lot of no's.
You're showing too much upstairs.
Yeah, too much upstairs. Okay, definitely. Nice dress, but too much upstairs.
Also, Doris said arms as well. Remember, we talked
Yeah.
about,
Absolutely. Yeah, the arms as
Mm,
well. Nice
yeah.
little sweater would have been better on that. Yeah.
Or a blazer over it. Yeah.
Blazer. Yeah.
This is perfect.
Okay. And now this gentleman here,
Yes.
pretty, that looks like a big yes all around.
yep.
Okay. How about our
No.
little lady here?
No.
I mean, that's good for night clubbing.
Yeah. No.
I mean, if I had that figure, I would wear that out, but
Yeah.
definitely not to a job interview.
No.
Correct.
The only,
Even a sweater wouldn't help that because look at the boots, the ankle boots. you know.
Yeah.
maybe with a blazer, but yeah, even I would say you could wear the ankle boots with a dark stocking or tights so that it
It
doesn't
blends in
stand
more.
out as much. That's the word I was looking for. But yeah, because even with the blazer, like it's still going to be a lot, even though it's not cleavage.
Yeah.
It's just so
Too
low
much
down.
skin.
Have to do it
Just
like-
keep in mind, never too much skin. That's
much
what I
skin.
always told people. Yeah.
Do we have any other I see a lot of chatting going on. in here.
Maybe with a blazer. Yeah, I've been.
Yeah,
calling
we're
in the
watching.
chats.
Yeah.
Okay. What about here?
No.
No, we've got no's.
Got jeans on and they're ripped.
Mm.
So definitely no. And here,
Maybe.
I have a yes. I heard a maybe. I would give this one 2 thumbs up.
I think almost because I still see some cleavage I
A
don't want to
little
see.
low. Yeah.
Yeah.
like I would do the adjusting of my my cami, the camisole, like a
Mm.
little bit with that. But
Unless you can
it's a
get like
nice-
if
it's a nice look. It is a nice look. But I adjust the camisole a little bit somehow, or maybe change the undergarment for it. But yeah, beautiful. Love it.
which by the way, if you pull up and adjust it and then take a safety pin to the back of it and your skirt, it stays.
Oh, that's a
Well,
trick.
because you can't always afford to like buy the right top, and this one is close enough. So
I didn't think about that safety pin thing, huh? Because you're always
Yeah.
ride up and I always am pulling my camis down. Yeah, the camisoles.
you're welcome, Grace. I have a yes to, I think. Yes, I see some yeses to this outfit.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. Yeah.
Yes, if it could be adjusted.
Right.
Okay, and then here's just kind of a group of people. I just want to give, you don't have to do yes, no to this, but it just kind of gives you an idea. It's like kind of like a lineup for group interviewing where, you know, each candidate is really dressed a little bit differently, but you see some men that are sporting the sports jacket, you know, with very casual clothing. And then women with their, you know, their heels, some have, you know, pants on, some have skirts on, and so on. But
But they all have
pretty
their
appropriate.
resume.
And they all have their resume in their hands, ready to go. Okay. And again, just another group of, you know, candidates with their resumes and different attires that are appropriate. Okay. So again, just some more. How about her? She's going to bed?
No.
I mean, that's like a
sleepwear or
nice
just
casual outfit for summer.
for summer. Yeah.
But Daphne says no. She does not think this is good for an
No.
interview.
No. I don't think so.
That's a great outfit for entertaining at home.
Yeah, but not for an interview. Yep.
How about him?
Mm,
Well, obviously, our first thing that stands out is those tattoos
yeah.
And the
Um,
muscles.
and the muscles.
Like, yeah, is that okay? I don't know. Not for an interview. Fitness center. I mean, if
Fitness
you're working at a fitness center,
A
Maybe.
gym. Yep,
yeah.
exactly. Or maybe he's like for a health food bodybuilding store or something like
Yeah.
that, you know? Right. Again, here, the only thing that I don't like about this is the slacks. It's like it's a suit, but the slacks are really fitted. They're very tight fitted, and that blouse seems to go really low cut. And you know, otherwise, I mean, it looks good, but I don't know. It just might be a little on the edge.
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
Doris said that
Oh.
the other one needed a scarf. I think that would have helped. Yes, you're right.
Doris, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you have
scarf.
something that matches and you can't afford to buy something else and you have a scarf you can just cover,
Scarves are great.
Yep.
Great.
I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that. But
Yep. And then her shoes, I would have just changed them from sneakers because it looks like those are sneakers.
oh, no. We're
No, we're
talking
talk-
the scarf for the woman in the suit that has the
Oh, I'm
logo.
sorry. Oh, yeah, go her scarf right away the neck. Yes, it would just cover that up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for these other two people.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
Too
first one,
casual, too casual.
too casual, but if she threw on like a blazer and then changed her shoes, it might work.
mhm.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
I've never seen something like this in an interview before. Actually, I have. So that's kind of why I said that.
Yeah, we
We've interviewed lots of folks.
we have, and we had someone that showed up with sweatpants on, like sweatpants.
Wow.
Unbelievable, but it happens. And obviously, again,
And especially if you're not wearing shoes. I think
yeah.
always wear
barefoot.
shoes unless maybe you're a lifeguard and you're showing off your skills, but otherwise wear shoes.
So what are some things that are wrong with the bottom pictures? People are, they're sitting there getting ready for their interview.
Some don't have their resumes with them.
Right? They don't have it in their hand, but
Yeah.
yep, exactly. And what's up with the first guy sitting with what's in his hand?
Oh, his coffee.
It's coffee.
I couldn't even see that well.
Yeah.
Um,
And what's he missing on his ankles?
Daphne says no socks.
No socks.
yeah.
Right?
And Doris also mentioned in the first picture, the second
Split.
person in with the skirt that's split up
Yeah.
sort of high.
So you know, when she sits down, there'll be too much showing there.
Exactly. Always sit down when you're preparing for your interview and look at yourself. And we can go back to that. If you can sit in front of a mirror, great. But have someone look at you when you sit
Yep.
down to see what you really look like when you're sitting.
Basic Instinct, Dory said. Remember that movie?
There you go.
It's great.
Yeah. Okay. So that was great. Great exercise. I hope
That was
everybody
fun.
enjoyed it. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it too. So the next topic, what to bring to the interview. When you're stressed about your interview, it's easy to forget that you might forget to bring something with you. So prepare ahead of time. I always say prepare and practice. So another P, prepare. Here are some items you likely need for the interview. Several copies of your resume. Even though you think you're interviewing with 1 or 2 people, bring a few more copies of your resume. You want to be prepared in case they bring other people in. Letters of recommendation, it depends on the company. They might tell you ahead of time to bring those letters of recommendation. References, it depends again. If the company's asking for them, make sure you bring them. Even though the interviewer may already have received a copy of your resume, when you applied for the job, you have to bring hard copies with you, okay? Your planner, your daily planner, your smartphone, a tablet, something you can easily look at to schedule additional appointments. They may ask for a second interview while you're there. So be prepared to write that down, look at your calendar, whatever you have. A folder containing research materials, make sure you have a notepad, 2 working pens, so you can take notes just in case one, doesn't work. You want to have a backup. Any additional materials such as writing samples, your portfolio, anything that there was requested by the interviewer. Make sure you have all those materials with you. All the items have to fit into something, a briefcase, a portfolio, a professional type bag, or a large purse, whatever you have, but make sure you have it with you, that bag or that briefcase. Write down the company's name, the interviewer's name, address, telephone number, write the directions, location of the interview the night before. Don't wait until the morning of or right before and say, oh yeah, where am I going? What am I doing? What am I bringing? Prepare ahead of time. This way, there's no chance that you're going to be losing or misplacing all that vital information. Okay. And again, we don't necessarily have to say it, but I'm going to say it. Make sure that you wash, shower, your hairstyles, you're neat, your professional image. Be sure to wear deodorant, antiperspirant, clean your nails. Visible tattoos should be covered, not showing tattoos at all. Look at your makeup. Complete your outfit with that briefcase, the bag, a tote bag. Make sure you have the resumes and all your materials. So let's talk about questions now that we're kind of wrapping that up, but I think Kristen has a comment before I move on.
Just a quick suggestion. I love the app Waze, and Waze allows you to put in an address and then say, I need to be there by whatever time. And I always make it 15 minutes earlier. So like 2 days in advance, I could say, I have to be there Thursday at 11:15, and it'll tell me what time to leave. And then I put that in my calendar, so I remember that that's what Waze told me. So that's just another way to feel a little bit prepared.
Definitely, definitely. I know another thing that I do is if I'm interviewing, if I'm looking at the time of day, I try to look at Waze or Google Maps, whatever. And during that time of day is when I put it in to see how long it might take. Because if you put it in at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, the time difference to get there may be totally different if you're going during a rush hour. So that preparing ahead of time and doing that Waze ahead of time, very important. Never be late. Always be early, if anything, but never be late for your interview. Okay. So Now let's talk about questions that we want to ask during the interview. So before I move into that, if there are any other comments or suggestions, anything that we've talked about so far before we move on to the questions. Okay, so what I want is everybody to refer to their handouts. We sent them, Sarah had sent them in your email earlier. And we will keep
But I also put them in chat,
in chat.
but I'm not sure Doris would see them.
Yeah, they
Um,
would only be in chat for when they were on. So Daphne might not see them as well because she logged out and in again.
Okay, so
Um,
for those that,
beforehand though, Colleen, I'm sorry. Doris said, review your resume in advance as well. Like, definitely know what you've said about yourself so that when they say, oh, you said you do blah, 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 you remember that. Sarah,
Right.
are you able to put them back into chat?
I'm going to put them back in, yes.
Thanks.
that's a
Okay,
great,
sorry, Colleen.
thank you. That's a great point because yeah, part of preparation is reread your resume. Make sure that you're comfortable with, everything you said on your resume because that's where all your questions now are going to come from and the discussion is now going to come from. So definitely reread your resume. Great point. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so the questions, even though if you can't look at them right now, it's okay. In class, because now we're doing this through Zoom session, I would want you to now take out the questions because you're going to start writing. You're going to get that piece of paper, notepad, pen, and you're going to start writing. We're going to be doing an exercise. And all of this stuff will be available to you in Canvas after the class as instructors. But you are now students of mine. So we're going to be doing this exercise together. And I'm going to share the questions on my screen also that you can see them if you don't have them in front of you right now. Okay. So as part of the interview preparation, you should try to determine the types of questions the interviewer will ask you. Spend time developing well thought out, complete and intelligent answers to those questions. Thinking about your answers and writing them down will be helpful, but what will benefit you the most is actually practicing with answering the interview questions aloud and having someone you trust evaluate your responses. You could be answering the questions in front of a mirror, even if you like, if you don't have a person, but it would be so helpful if you can do a mock interview, someone to do these questions with ahead of time. That way you can evaluate those responses and that communication engagement back and forth. Most of the questions you'll be asked will be similar to ones that we're going to review in this lesson. However, you need to be prepared for the interviewer to ask you a few unexpected questions. I can't tell you every question an interviewer is going to ask you. All I can work with you on is some of the basic ones that many of us always ask during an interview. So by asking the questions, they may seem odd or irrelevant. The interviewer is going to see how you react and how well you think on your feet. So always listen carefully. During the interview, listen carefully to the interviewer's questions and answer them thoughtfully and honestly. Okay. So one of the first questions most people ask is, tell me about yourself. They've had your resume. They know you're qualified for the job because that's why you're there. They read your resume. They read your cover letter. They brought you in. Now they're going to start listening to you and talking to you. They want to see who you are. So when they say, tell me about yourself, they're not asking for you to tell you about your personal life. They want what's called like a summary statement, something that, tells about you. It's like a 1-minute marketing statement or success story. This is usually that paragraph at the top of your resume. So if you think of the top of your resume as a summary statement, that might be something that gives them information about you, but also sells you in that 1 minute. You need to write a rough draft of your story in response to that question. When you get it fine-tuned, try it on a friend, talk it out to somebody, get feedback and rehearse it over and over again. The story highlights many success factors and gives you the opportunity to share something kind of personal, but not private. Remember, the interviewer can read facts about you straight from your resume. But here's an example of how, like, you could start a story. I'm a self-motivated person who is very goals-oriented. In my junior year of college, I knew that I wanted an internship at a consulting firm. One of my friends who was a senior told me to come to your company. This is like a casual conversation in a summary, like to introduce yourself. Tell me about yourself. You know, when my friend told me about this position, I couldn't wait to interview or to submit my resume, because your company seems to be the best company to work for. You know, right away, it's kind of casual, a little personal, but it also is telling you that who you are. You're a motivated, goal-oriented person. So you're looking for, what is your statement? What is your statement? And again, you can take part of that from your resume, because we usually have at the top of a resume your summary statement or your objective. And then you can embellish on that a little bit to be more. Okay. So another question, why do you want this job? Mentioning your qualifications, emphasizing your interest in the company, and expressing confidence that you are the right candidate for the job are all appropriate ways to respond to this type of open-ended question. You know, why do you want the job? What has been your greatest failure or achievement? A lot of companies ask this because they're looking for, the fact is nobody's perfect. So they're looking for, how do you handle things that may have gone wrong? So are you willing to acknowledge your mistakes? More importantly, are you able to learn from your mistakes and failures? You know, it could be in your personal life or professional life. Greatest failure, greatest mistake. What did you learn from that experience? If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have been, and this is like that job to get you back into the workforce, this is an opportunity to say, gosh, as a mom, this is what I did, blah, 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 or whatever it might be. It's okay to bring that kind of stuff in too, as a greatest mistake or failure. But also, if you've been in the workforce, talk about a project or a program or something that may have gone wrong or went really great. Like, what is it? But they want something. And what can you tell me about yourself that's not on your resume? That's always a good one too. So this question provides yet another opportunity for you to sell yourself. An example could be, I've always been the person my friends go to get organized, and showing them the latest technology. That shows them that, wow, you're a go-to person, and boy, you're keeping up with technology. So that's something that doesn't say it on your resume, but by saying, I've always been that person my friends go to for organizing, and showing them the latest technology. Yet that shows them something different from the resume. So what I want to do, I want to take 10 minutes. I know it's getting kind of late. 10. Let's take five minutes and just write down something for one of these questions. Take a moment, pick one of them, pick one of these 4 and write down, and then we'll share. So let's, ooh, Daphne, she actually said question number 4. So Daphne, I think I'm going to call on you first. So while everybody's continuing to finish writing down their answers, we're just going to share. I shared, you know, little information about, like, tell me about yourself. So Daphne, would you like to let us know about question number 4?
She might still be typing it into chat,
Okay.
because I believe that she was.
Okay. If
I can
anyone else is
share.
ready to share, sure, Kristen, why don't you share?
Yeah. And oh no, Darlene. No, Darlene's not on mute, so she probably can share as well. I did the why do you want this job?
Okay.
And my answer, I thought about the job I have right now, and that's the job that I'm applying for. So my answer would be, I'm so excited about this job opportunity because I love being an instructor. I've taught technology for so long, and having the opportunity to share all of the skills I've learned with other instructors is something I feel I am perfect for.
And you were and are. I'm so happy with that hire.
Me too. I think Darlene's ready.
Okay, Darlene, thank you for sharing, Kristen. Darlene, would you like to share?
Yes, I picked number 3. As far as like being on the job, well, I'm sorry. I guess is what has been your greatest achievement? I'll pick that I've been willing to take constructive criticism and work with it, changed what was done wrong without taking it personal or becoming angry with it.
Excellent, excellent. That's great, actually. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share?
Let's see, I've got Daphne for question 4. I am the person that my friends come to listen. Many people trust me. I'm very trustworthy. That's important.
Very, that's great. Great example. Thank you.
And I said for number 2, why do you want this job? Based on, and we're assuming I'm going to be applying for a job as administrative assistant in a company, in an organization. Based on my prior experience, I believe this job is the right next step for me. From what I know about the company already, I think it would be a great place to work and where I can add value. And also, it's a great commute for me.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Sarah.
And we've got Doris for number 2. In researching your organization, I found your mission and core values aligned with mine. I am mission driven and anchored by my values. I can support your mission tremendously. I like it.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for
I have a
sharing.
quick question.
Yeah.
What do you think about, I really need this job and I will do a great job for you? Like, what do you think about somebody just, instead of talking about what they can add, talking more about, I need a job, I need this job, you know? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because it sounds like desperation and you don't want to be desperate. You have to build your confidence before going in, knowing how desperate you feel, because it's a person that does that. I'm desperate. I need this job. I need this job. But turn it around that you're so impressed with the company, but don't sound desperate.
And I do actually, if I could add one more thing.
Absolutely.
I talked about my job hunting support group, and all of us were women, and we all realized that each one of us, in talking about ourselves, downplayed our skills, our achievements, and frequently women are taught to not take up so much room and be so not to boast so much about themselves. And you have to remember in your interview that you should be boastful, that you should be talking about all of the amazing things that you can do, that you have done, that you're capable of. And even if you don't necessarily believe that you are that amazing, you are. And so you need to practice being your own cheerleader so that in the job interview, you believe what you're saying about yourself, or you're willing to say all of those amazing things about yourself, even if you're feeling a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's always something you can find that you can boast about. Everybody's great. I mean, you are a great person, and you need to sell that to the interviewer and let them know. And you can find that in your personal life too. Like I go back to, we have a lot of like stay-at-home moms. They've been raising children, then getting back in the workforce. Find something in that. You know, I I was the person that got together with all the play dates. I organized the play dates. I got the moms to, take part in the PTA with me. I reached out to, whatever it might be. I've done volunteer work at my community. Everyone loves me because I'm the best one that can put together the meals. So there's always something. You just have to find out what that something is of yours. Great, thank you. Thanks everybody for sharing. So unless everybody wants to share one more thing, or does anybody else have another one, or we'll move on to the next screen. Next slide. Okay, great. So why ask questions during an interview? So we gave some examples on the slide before about questions that the interviewer may ask you. Okay, so why should you ask questions during the interview? You want to prepare a list of questions beforehand and be sure to ask them at the appropriate time. You don't have to save them all to the end, but feel out your interview and how it's going. Ask questions during an interview is very important for several reasons. It shows your interest. By asking questions, you're demonstrating that to the interviewer that you have a genuine interest in the company and the position. It also gives an opportunity to learn more about the role and the organization. It helps you determine if it's a good fit. The interview is not only a chance for the employer to assess your qualifications, but it's also an opportunity for you to assess whether the company in the position is a good fit for you. Asking questions about the company, the culture, the day-to-day responsibilities can help you determine whether this role is something you would enjoy. It sets you apart. Many candidates have have similar qualifications and experience, but asking questions can set you apart from the other competition. It shows that you've done your research, that you're engaged, and you're serious about the opportunity. Overall, asking questions during an interview can help you learn more about the company and make a positive impression on the interviewer. You might even Google questions specific to the job. So if you're going to interview for a training assistant or a teaching assistant position, I'm going to bounce over to Google right now. And oops, wrong one. Is that the right one? Wrong one. Teaching assistant. So if I were to Google teaching assistant questions during an interview, right? I can look up, and you could do this for any job, but it'll give you an idea of some of the questions that you might want to ask too, or questions that the interviewer would ask you, but you can take those either way and make them your own questions. Okay. How would you respond to a disruptive student? How you could ask, what are the rules in the school system to disruptive students? Is there a process in place that lets them know that you know about disruptive students, and you're asking, what are your rules? What is the process here at this school system? So Google those types of things ahead of time also. For any of the positions, so you have a better, very specific questions to the type of job you're interviewing for, not just generic questions, right? So let me go back. Okay. So typical work week. I'm looking at the slide now. I'm just calling off. So a typical day, a work week, what does it look like on the job? That's a great question. I always ask that if I don't really know what that work week is like. And the employer loves to talk about that. Well, it's a receptionist position. So 90% of your job is greeting people at the desk, and then 10% is making phone calls. That tells you exactly what it's like. If they say, well, the position is 90% on the phone and 10% greeting clients, that's a big difference in the responsibilities of that job. And maybe you don't want to be on the phone all day. Well, then that interview's done, because it's not something you would want to do. So bring your questions. Next one, what happened to the last person in the position? Maybe it's a brand new position that they're filling, and that opens it up to a whole bunch of questions of, wow, do you have the details of the job really down? Or is this a position that will develop over time? Are my responsibilities exactly this? Or would I be taking on more responsibilities? It lets you also know that if that person left, maybe they're gonna, they're going to change the position up, but it lets you know exactly about that, whether the person was there or it's a newly created. The goals of the company. If you want to know the goals of the company, ask something about the company. Do your research. Google or wherever you have to go to Indeed, go back to the job description and really look at the company too. And look to see if they're in the newspaper recently, something about the company. It lets them really know that you are interested. Okay. So some final tips on preparation. Visit the employer's website, right? In addition to the websites of the employers, look at some of their main competition, maybe look at other companies that do the same thing. Read the company issued press releases, newsletters, magazines, websites, do what you need to do. Go to social media, go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever's out there. Look for stuff on the company. Check your local city. If it's maybe you're looking at the city, look at the city's website, Chamber of Commerce, the government site, whatever it is that you're applying for, wherever that might be. Speak directly with people who already work for the company. Maybe you already know someone that works there. Ask them some information. For civil service positions, you can obtain specific information from agencies' websites or contact departments directly. Okay. The slide itself is, just show up on time, showing up for the interview prepared, being prepared. Prepare the activities, the information, the questions, right clothing, what to wear. Have it laid out ahead of time. Prepare. Practice, practice, practice. All I can say is those are my 2 P's all the time. If you prepare and you practice, you will nail that interview. And you will be comfortable and you won't be as nervous. You will be relaxed as long as you do the 2 P's that go along with all interviews. Prepare and practice. Okay. So next steps. Oh, I just had a couple more on here, but get to the interview on time, visit the restroom. The last thing you want to do is walk into the interview and you have to go to the bathroom. You're never going to be comfortable. So make sure you do all those things ahead of time. Glance at your notes. And we mentioned earlier, someone said, read the resume. Definitely read your resume ahead of time. Smile. Everybody smile. You have to smile. Be polite to everyone, even the receptionist or the people, anyone you meet during that interview could be interviewing you. And remember, be calm, take a breath, do whatever you need to do to relax as much as you can. Okay. So some next steps. Ensure that you have an updated resume and a cover letter. We did a workshop recently on resume and cover letters. If you didn't attend it, you can always see the recording. We do have that recorded. Review interview tips, review interview questions and practice appropriate responses. The interview questions that we gave you as handouts, I usually ask all my students to read that and fill in something for everything. We only went through 4 examples. I don't remember the number, but there's several examples on that spreadsheet. And conduct a mock interview. Practice the interview ahead of time. Learning Express module is something we have at the Plainfield Library. It's free. And you can go on the Learning Express module and you can look up Interview with Confidence module. And it has all the details really that we talked about today. So it's something you can read at your own pace and give you further information. You can consider attending our next workshop in a box is going to be how to use LinkedIn, and that's on June 6th. LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn on June 6th. Okay. And okay, so that is the end of the workshop. I hope that everyone enjoyed it and learned some great information about interviewing and building your confidence. So interviewing with confidence. I think that everything we went over today is really important, and it helps you prepare and prepare for the best you that you can be at an interview, and it will prepare you for that successful interview and get you that job. So thank you for attending.
Thank you.
So now I just want to open it up, and we're going to talk a little bit about being a facilitator. So everyone just attended this session as students. You were my students, right? But now I want to talk a little bit about and open the floor up for questions about facilitating this workshop. So facilitating the workshop, one, there's two ways. You can do it either on Zoom or you can do it in person. Most of these types of sessions would be done in person at the library, I would believe. But you want to have the handouts and those questions available. Anyone that attends this workshop, really the prerequisite for this is they got to have a resume. So you really need to make sure that your students or patrons that are coming to the session have a resume ahead of time, because that's what this is all about, is getting ready for the interview. So prerequisite, have a resume, cover letter done, attend this session with you, and then set them up for the mock interview. After the end of the session is when they would complete all those questions. They would practice, prepare, then they would come back to you for doing a mock interview, hopefully. Okay. So remember that your plan needs to include all the things you need to do to get organized before the workshop, such as identifying the goals, the workshop, working with your materials, preparing for the workshop, and practice. I didn't just host this without practice. I practiced this session, and you'll need to do that too before you host this. We're going to supply you with all the information, the notes and everything I talked about today are in my teacher notes or instructor notes. So you'll have that to practice with. All the handouts you'll have, the slideshow that I went through, you will have everything that I had to present this information. So also I want to talk about is the Learning Express tool. If you don't have it at your library, I think it's pretty much free, but we use that in our classes and we refer patrons to it all the time. Learning Express tool has Interview with Confidence, and it also has the resume workshop that we did, creating a resume and creating cover letters in Learning Express. Running a workshop, we have it in Canvas, the recording for that. If you didn't attend that session prior to running a workshop, I suggest you take a look at that video, the recording. And again, resume and cover letters workshop in a box, that's a recording that's in Canvas also. And if you'd like to attend the next Running a Workshop live presentation hosted by, I think, Kristen, it's May 23rd. So
I was just looking for it. You're so much more prepared.
Running a Workshop live presentation is May 23rd. So again, LinkedIn is June 6th live presentation, and then Running a Workshop is May 23rd.
And when she says live, she means live over Zoom.
Over
versus
Zoom.
a recording.
Over Zoom.
You don't have to come visit us at the library. You can get onto Zoom.
Right. So let's open it up to question. Oh, Kristen, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing. We're at noon and I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask any questions at all about how to run this or any of the information Colleen shared with you. I will say Doris in chat said, wait, hold on, she said something really nice. This was great.
Yay.
So yeah, good job.
Oh, thank you. I hope that you guys learned a lot of information. I hope you'll be able to take this workshop in a box and be able to teach it yourself at your library. We're here to guide you, help you, assist you in any way we can. You know, we're always available. So
And
And
if
if
you
you have
do
any-
use this workshop in a box, you should let us know because we'd love to have that information that you utilized it and how it went, of course.